Good evening. There being a quorum present, this regular session of the Howe City Council is hereby called to order on Tuesday, December 17, 2024 at 6 p.m. under the Open Meetings Act of the State of Texas. Please remove your cell phones and let's stand for the prayer and our pledges. Heavenly Father, we just come to you today and we ask for guidance as the City Council leads us and makes decisions for the city. We ask that we will put any personal agendas aside and do what's right for the city. We ask that you will put your hedge of protection around the city and protect us. And I ask that you will be with our citizens during this time of celebration as we enter the Christmas season, or as we are in this Christmas season. The Christmas season is a time of celebration. However, some suffer from financial pressures, from stress, from grief, from relationship issues. Whatever they may be, you know. We just ask that you will be with them and give them peace. We ask that you will be with each and every one of us. It's in your precious holy name we pray. Amen. And now for our pledges. The American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Union of Texas, one state, one and indivisible.
I messed that up.
Publicity. Thank you.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Catch. I said it right.
Thank you.
You made me doubt myself.
Citizen comments. The City Council invites citizens to speak to the Council on topics not already scheduled for public hearing or on the agenda. Citizens may address the Council for a maximum of 2 minutes. The Council is unable to respond to or discuss any issues that are brought up during this section that are not on the agenda, other than to make a public statement of specific factual information in response to a citizen's inquiry or to recite existing policy in response to the inquiry. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to make a comment that is not already on the agenda for public hearing? All right, we will move forward. Mayor comments. The City of Howe has a new police officer, and we want to extend a warm welcome to our new officer, Caden Sutherland. Let's give him a hand. In January, the Howe Hump Day networking breakfast will be held on the second Wednesday instead of the first Wednesday due to the holiday. The breakfast will be held on Wednesday, January 8, 2025 from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. here in Summit Gardens, and everyone is welcome to attend. Last Saturday was our annual Christmas parade, and I want to thank everyone who participated and made the parade a success. I want to thank the Howe Chamber of Commerce for doing such a great job in organizing the parade, and the Meet Santa and Mrs. Claus following the parade. We really do appreciate you. The friendly Silver Spike toy drive competition between the City of Howe and the City of Van Alstyne was a huge success. We appreciate our friends and neighbors with the City of Van Alstyne and everyone here in Howe for participating. Additionally, a huge thank you to Councilman Billy Ingram for this, for coming up with the idea and for taking charge and delivering the toys. A lot of children will benefit from the toys that were collected because of all the citizens who made this possible. Consent items. These items consist of non-controversial or housekeeping items required by law. Items may be considered individual by any council member making such request prior to a motion and vote on the consent items. 1, discuss, consider, and act upon consent items which are marked by an asterisk. These items are minutes of the regular council meeting, November 19, 2024, bills being paid for each month, detailed check register report, statement of revenue and expenditures, independent financial, secure deposits, November 30, 2024, recap and standings, November 2024. Does the council wish to discuss any of these items? And if not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Michael, motion for approval?
Approval, yes.
Michael makes a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Billy makes a second. All in favor? Everyone is in favor. I would like to note that Sarah is absent today. So that is Sean, Ricky, Michael, and Billy. Any opposed or abstaining? None are opposed or abstaining. Action item number 2. Discuss, consider, and act upon adding Brandon McKinney to the Planning and Zoning Commission Board.
How much time we got?
Does the council want to discuss this item? And if not, do we have a motion?
I will motion to add Brandon.
So Billy makes a motion to add Brandon to the Planning and Zoning Commission Board.
I second.
Michael makes a second. All in favor? So everyone present is in favor. Any opposed or abstaining? None are opposed or abstaining. So now the City Council is going to take a quick recess while I swear in Brandon, and then they're going to have their Planning and Zoning meeting. And the time is 6:06 p.m. Brandon, if you will, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, I, and state your name,
I, Brandon McKinney,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
execute
execute
the duties of
the duties of
the Howe
the House
Planning and Zoning Commission
Planning and Zoning Commission
of the City of Howe,
of the City of Howe,
State of Texas,
State of Texas,
and will do
and will do
the best of my ability
the best of my ability
to preserve,
to preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws
and laws
of the United
of
States,
the United States,
of this state,
of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Quick, come on up here, Brandon. So, let me sign right here. Let me have you sign right there first. And then one more. zoning is next.
Full house. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for the City of Howe. It is at 6:10 p.m. There is a quorum present. A couple things on the agenda today. Number one, discuss, consider, and act upon the approval of the minutes from the meeting from the November 19th, 2024, which we all have a copy. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. All right. Moving on to number two, we're going to discuss, consider, and act upon a requested zone change ordinance 829, which is an ordinance of the City Council, City of Howe, Texas, amending Howe zoning ordinance to rezone a tract of land consisting of a total of 7.187 acres of land located in the J.A. Hanning Survey, abstract number 544, Grayson County, Texas, and the City of Howe, Grayson County, Texas, and the W.A. Park Survey, abstract number 925, consisting of property IDs numbers 15, 26, 17, oh, there's a lot of them. Heretofore zoned SF2, providing that the tract is hereby rezoned as C2, describing that the tract be rezoned, providing a penalty clause, saving or repealing clause, severability clause, and an effective date, and providing for the publication of the caption hereof. Go ahead, Mr. Walker.
P&Z members. Ordinance 829 is for a zone change on East Duke Street, which currently has an abandoned home on it. I wouldn't say abandoned, but it's dilapidated, perhaps, which has an unrealistic value on it by the Grayson County Appraisal District, by the way. But that's not in this case. The zone changes from SF2 to C2 to allow the property owner to find a more suitable purchaser with the former concrete plant, which is adjacent to the property across the street on Duke Street. It's still owned by a concrete plant, but they don't produce anything on it. It's not fully occupied, but that does warrant a zoning change, or at least a look at a zoning change to C2. I've heard no objections directly from nearby landowners. I have had some people ask about it and wanted to know what it is or had some intrigue about it. I actually had two that were in support of it. So unlike some that we've had recently, we don't have any opposition directly from this at this point. I know we have some in the audience that have traveled from California that have adjacent property, and I think they are highly interested to see maybe from the owner of the property what the intended use is. So with that, I think Ms. Gibbs, who represents the seller, has a few things to talk about as far as this property. I put in your packet a copy of some of the warehouse items and descriptions that they're intended to go with. She may have some more detail on that, but I'll hand it over to Ms. Gibbs at this point.
Thank you so much for having me today. This has been really exciting for me. I've known Terry for a couple months, but I've been a resident here for almost 7 years. I spend as much money as I can here, but given the lack of business opportunities, I have to go elsewhere. There's quite a few reasons why I proposed. I met with Monty, we had like minds, met with Terry, and it was immediate that we thought that C2 would be the most appropriate zoning. Outside of the unesthetically optimistic concrete plant that there is. It's also a little bit off the beaten path. It's also right across the street from the tracks. There's no secret that we have a septic issue in Howe. And I'm a dollars and cents kind of a realtor. I'm also an investor. I'm a builder, I flip, and I'm a top producer, including right here in Howe. So with that being said, there's some hardcore reasons why I would like it to be considered to be C2. Most importantly, we can't put enough houses there to turn a profit. And if I can't turn a profit, and if my seller can't turn a profit, then it deems undevelopable. And we can't deem 7 acres undevelopable just because it's currently zoned SF2. In order to keep it SF2, you are solely looking at townhouses and high-density population, none of which the roads in our town could support. It'd be ugly, it'd be obtrusive, it'd be loud, and our septic couldn't handle it for at least 3 years, which means it would be sitting again for 3 years. It's already been sitting since the beginning of time. The trees there prove it. We do have a tree ordinance. We will do everything we can in accordance to the ordinance. We're not asking for any waivers, and I don't even have a buyer. I got people calling me because I know investors, and everyone knows that there's a tree ordinance. There's a perimeter that allows for plenty of privacy, plenty of noise reduction, and still plenty of beauty to be maintained. Any tree that does come down, if it's a business park, which is really what I'm proposing to any and all buyers that are, interested, we need the business space. The options are endless in a business park. I love going to La Cima as much as I love going to Abby's. I'm a sucker for pot roast at least once a week, but I do go to La Cima for the Mexican margaritas. But I love looking at that business park, and I've watched it explode. What started off as one strip is now several strips. That's indicative that there is a need for small business. We are a small business community. Nobody is king of the mountain here in Howe, and we have groomers, we have plumbers, we have sprinkler repairmen, sprinkler installers, we have hairdressers, we have window tinters, we have 3M film installers. We have a lot that you probably don't even know living here, but I went to several data websites, and according to one, 27% of all of Grayson County is self-employed. That is a huge number, and yet we are giving them the least amount of space right here in our hometown. So you're forcing, well, not you, but hand-me-down you, the land and the lack thereof of some business space is forcing our residents to go elsewhere. Van Alstyne has become price prohibitive for not only homeowners, but for also commercial leasers. They have an exorbitant expectation of what their price per square foot is worth, both on the purchase of land, both on the land, residential and commercial. They have an exorbitant expectation of what their place is worth. And as long as people are desperate enough to pay for it, it will continue to increase. That is disheartening to every homeowner and every business owner that is trying to earn a living right here within 5 or 10 minutes of their hometown. Otherwise, they're going to Sherman. They're going to Denison, which has plenty of office space and warehouse space to accommodate all of them. But we can give them 7 acres, which could house a monstrous warehouse park with very little drain on our septic situation. we currently have the sewer taps there because of that house. And we've been kind of brainstorming with the engineer. It's not written in stone. I wouldn't claim it is, but it's not a drain. A warehouse park is not a drain on that current sewer tap. And the other thing is that road is horrible. It's not a secret. Development dollars have more dollars on the business side than on the residential side to actually do some road improvement. So I kind of look at this from a process of elimination, because does it work for SF1? No. We can't afford to put 7 houses there. We can't afford to put 14 houses there, and otherwise it's just going to sit. And who on the luxury side is going to want to live across the street from a concrete plant or some active railroad tracks? Okay, so then we have SF2, which is where it's currently at. We don't have any buyers that want to put townhouses, and we don't even have a city council or a P&Z that really wants some townhouses and some high-density units in our downtown. We can't handle that kind of traffic flow. So then we go to C1. C1, is it a fit? Not ideally, because C1 is more glorified, it's more beautiful, it's more retail-oriented, and it sets the bar much higher than a couple of blocks off of our main drag. I like to call Denny and Hanning our main drag, but we don't get that drive-by traffic if we're doing that. And so that forces us to look at C2. And because it's off the main drag, C2 is a perfect fit. They can drive, they can store, they can have their noise. I was here last week and everybody was, really concerned about the tire shop. Well, not that we would advocate anything as aesthetically unpleasing as a tire shop, but we could store that behind, and the storefront on Duke would still be attractive. It sets the bar to a C2, but yet it would allow things like maybe a coffee shop, maybe a salon. We got the barber shop, but we don't have a whole lot else going on in town. So it just seems like a process of elimination where we could just expand our opportunities to create some commercial development here, and perhaps we'll never be a Van Alstyne. I don't want to be a Van Alstyne, but we could at least create some opportunities for our residents to earn a buck here at home instead of in their garage driving their wife crazy so that maybe she can park in the garage someday again. Because it's those business owners that the business park really is attractive to. Think about a 1.5 garage. What could you do? If you could be an upholsterer. I mean, there's just a million of self-employed opportunities out there that don't have the money to pay high dollar rent. They certainly don't have the money to pay high dollar ownership, but they can provide some sort of, they can provide an expense against their income so that they can afford to live or afford to work. I work residential and commercial, so forgive me. They can afford to work and pay a lease bill according to their income. So does anybody have any questions for me?
Any questions? No? No,
Okay.
don't guess so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'll make this brief, but she does talk about a lot of points that are valid. Our sales tax, we do leak a lot of sales tax to other communities, and that's because we're out of space. We don't have any place to put businesses, and I get phone calls all the time. So I will say that is true. Also, there's a road improvement ordinance. So when they do develop this, they're required to kick in a certain amount of money to improve Duke Street on that side of Highway 5 along their stretch of the property. So
I do have one question. So that's the home you're talking about, and then that whole wooded lot around to basically the field, the cornfield?
yes.
Right? Okay.
Well, it goes south from Duke Street, that whole 7-acre stretch, and it wraps around the curve.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions for me?
Open up for public comment? Public comment? Okay.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you. My name is Karen Taylor Hook. I am trustee for the Taylor Family Trust. My grandparents bought the old Patterson Road property for their first fully owned home and farm in 1952. As a child, I remember running the fields, riding and driving the tractor with my grandfather, and then older, assigned to till the field by myself. Subsequently, our family has leased the land for crops, and we have enjoyed the farm. The City of Howe has a great opportunity for growth with all the new development in the area. However, growth brings challenges in both the short and long term for all the residents. The site of concern is located on the south side of the business area. Property is adjacent to East Duke, Old Patterson Road, and South Hughes. The addition of the houses east of the old railroad tracks on Old Highway 6 have increased the traffic on Old Patterson Road. I expect that the business located at the end of East Duke will have the same effect. Old Patterson Road is only an oversized one-lane gravel road. This road is not suited for significant growth of traffic in its current condition. The planned zoning change is also immediately adjacent to our tilled cropland. Under this area is also a groundwater table. This site borders the upper portion of our tilled field. Should the zoning change for this site, the owner may construct any kind of business that qualifies as a C2. The runoff that could be generated by this business could cause long-term harm to our crop and water table. It is unclear if air quality is included, but any runoff or emissions could contaminate the cropland or the water table, and that's of great concern. Either the loss of cropland or the presence of contaminated water is a direct effect on the utility and value of the adjacent property. The question is not when the contamination would occur, but when. Loss both of farmable and harvestable land and the ability to use groundwater is of grave concern. The water table currently supplies water to both the farm and the residential house on Old Patterson. The Taylor family requests the long-term results of the short-term decision be considered in the zoning change proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Any other public comment? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Monty, or Mr. Walker, for sending me the registered mail I got last Saturday at my California address to say, hey, we'd like you to come speak about this rezoning request adjacent to your property. I realize I have lived in many parts of the country. I realize how Californians are viewed in many parts of the country. So I would like an opportunity to give you a little bit of background in addition to what my cousin's given about what this land is for our family. Would it be okay if I gave you a map so you can see what we Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand. This is easy. All right.
So, I am Kara Britt. I do live in California. I am granddaughter of Herbert Taylor and Eula Grissom Taylor, and I am one of the 2 trustees on the 60-acre joined family farm that you see highlighted here. The piece in question for rezoning from SF2 to C2 is the piece up here at the very top of our farm. And then this map that we have here is 55 acres. We actually, also as a family, have the middle piece here as well. That's another 5 acres. So this has been continuously in our family for the last 70 years, and our family has farmed in Grayson County for 170 years. So I know when something goes out to a California address, it's easy to think outsider investor. We don't want to listen to what they have to say. They're not invested in us, but we are. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of background of what the farm has been in our family. I won't take too long, but just so you have a sense that even though I don't live here anymore, my dad was a minister at Van Alstyne Christian Church a number of years where he met my mother. I'm a graduate of TCU. My dad went to Bright Seminary. And then we have this long-standing farming history in Grayson County. Almost got here when the area became Texas, not quite. I think we showed up 4 years after Grayson County became Grayson County. So my cousin already explained that the 60-acre plot was bought after my grandparents tenant farmed in Pilot Grove for many decades. And they finally, in their 50s and in the 50s, had saved enough from making hominy. I still have the little strainer that my grandfather fashioned. And then if any of you have been around long enough, there was an old Cannon store. That was our grandmother's, where she sold eggs, and it was a combination of my grandfather, or our grandfather, and our grandmother scraping together that money in addition to the work that they did on the farm to be able to finally own their own piece of property. And that's the property that you see in front of you. When my grandfather passed away in the early 70s, our grandmother entered an agreement with Bobby Salas to farm that land. That was 50 years ago. And then when Bobby couldn't, Mr. Salas couldn't farm that any longer, then that passed on to his son-in-law, Scott Renfro, who's been farming it the last 10 years or so. So we have, our family has a 70-year history with that property, and then our continuous relationship with the Salas Renfro family is the last 50 years. When my grandmother passed away in the 80s, my uncle, so my cousin Karen's and my mother were the next generation down, and they managed the farm for the next 30 years. And during that time, I was always consulted. I haven't always consulted in every decision that was made, everything that came, anybody that called, when they'd want to put cell towers out there, when they'd want to drill for oil, when they'd want to drill for mineral rights, anything, I was in the background and part of the conversation. So even if you haven't seen my face before, unless we cross paths at church at some point, I've been in the community. I've been coming in the area every 2 or 3 times a year to help my mother, help make decisions, make sure we knew what was going on, and not only the land, which was really important to them because that's what allowed them to go on. Our parents worked every summer, every weekend to be able to have money to be able to buy that property eventually when their parents were able to. So that property means something to us, and we have tried, even living afar, to always keep Howe's interest in mind and the land's interest in mind, because we know it's an agricultural community. My mother passed away in 2017. My uncle passed away shortly thereafter, and so we went to a new generation of management in a really short time. I had a few months to manage with my uncle, and now we are the new set of management for that thing. So just to give you a little sense, I don't want you to think we're just not here. We are here even though we're not here, if that makes sense. I read the Howe Enterprise. Every week it comes out, I read the articles, I watch what's going on in Sherman, I read the Dallas Morning. I'm really paying attention to what's going on to make sure what you all are facing, what the community's facing, and how we can help be partners in what happens in this area. So that's the background. Also, I am the one in the family, I'm the one who fields all the calls. So I answer all the calls for development, all the calls for sale, and I keep on fending, although you might not know it, I keep on fending off people who want to come put junky stuff at that entry point into Howe, because we face, as you notice, as you get off LB Kirby, we are kind of the entry point. We're the entry point for coming in from Van Alstyne. and we're the entry point from LB Kirby. And I get a lot of phone calls, probably 7 to 10 a month of investors wanting to buy the place. And I also get numerous unsolicited, and we don't have it listed, and we get numerous unsolicited mail every month. And so my parents, my mom and her dad fended that off a number of years, and now that's, in our family, that's my role. So I answer those phone calls, and I am really interested, if it ever were to be developed, that it be something we could be proud of, that our grandparents wouldn't haunt us about, and that you all would work for the community here. So we have everybody who's in this room in mind in terms of what we do on a daily basis, even if you can't see us on the street because our life has taken us in some other directions. So that's the background for that part. So right now, our intention, we know this is a farming community, we come from farming families, our intention is to keep it in agriculture. That's our desire, that's what we've been working at. We have a great relationship with the same family. We don't have a specific reason not to have an agriculture. We are very aware that of the $30 billion largest investment in the country that just went up in not very far from here at Texas Instruments. My uncle, her father, was the 6th PhD hired from Texas Instruments back in the day that they ever hired. So we have connection to that presence in the community, and we understand at some level what that's bringing to Howe, but we're not in your position having to make these decisions and having to kind of have this very quick pressure to make a lot of decisions about how you change from community farming to, and how you manage development. That's a big, quick thing to take care of. Although I haven't been living here, my dad's ministry took us to southern Idaho, which is also a big farming community, so I've seen that explode the last 15 or 20 years, where farms in every direction are becoming houses, so I've watched that process. And I currently live in Silicon Valley, which used to be gorgeous orchards all up and down the area, and so I've also see on a daily basis what that means to have infill and have the pressure of development and huge money coming into places that didn't used to have huge money. So I understand that from the variety of perspectives that I have. And again, I fend off people that I don't think would be good. We want to keep an ag right now, but also we don't want to just toss the city to the wind at the entry point, that particular entry point. So with all that in mind, SF2 to CF2 is a big change. It's not a little change, it's a big change. And had I gotten a thing that said C1, I probably wouldn't have changed all my plans and asked my husband to take some time off work and hopped on a plane and come out in 8 days, right at Christmas time. But it's a pretty big change, and it does border our property. We've tried really hard to defend and protect that property for a long time. And we want to continue to protect that property while all taking into consideration that you all live here and that you all want great things for your city as you have these pressures coming in from investors. One of the concerns, and my cousin already brought it up, is if you look at the map, if we have East Duke at the top here, and then you have LB Kirby, and it goes into Old Patterson Road, and that goes right through the center of our farm. And so that is an old road. I'm sure you all drive it, or if you haven't, you might take a look. We do end up, even without any major developments, if there was trucking equipment, I mean, a C2 is a pretty big change. I've read through all the, read what those options are. It's a big category. And so I understand you've done a ton of work to try to get this, representing your buyer or your seller, have worked with the city and have worked with engineers. I mean, that's a ton of legwork for a real estate person to do, very conscientiously. But we do have concerns about, since that is one of the access points, if there was a sale and the next person who owned the property said, well, I don't want a business park, I want to put in something with a bunch of trucks or whatever. And if we know that Highway 5 is getting, because I read the reports, Highway 5 is getting harder and harder for farming equipment to go down. It's busier. We drove 5 yesterday. It's, the chance of expansion within the next 5 to 10 years is probably a good one. And we just drove down the 4-lane thing down the way. If that gets too busy for farm equipment and other things, our little farm road might become a major thoroughfare, and right now it can't handle it. As it is, we already have people zipping around there, occasionally going around that blind corner, and they end up in the field, and then we have to call someone to pull them out. Fortunately, we still have kinfolk in the area who make those phone calls and make sure people get out of the field. But if we had a lot of impact on that road, we could have a lot of impact on that road. And it's just not quite ready for it yet. And I believe that's county road, not city road. So any of the street ordinances which would improve East Duke, and we've driven it, and yes, it does need to be improved, but anything that might go around that corner would not be necessarily improved. And if it were improved, that would take acreage, because we have a fair bit of acreage along that, it would take acreage from us on both sides. So we do care what happens on this other piece of land depending on what goes in. We did drive by La Cima. We've seen the potential flex use park that you've proposed, and I think you're working potentially with any of your potential sellers. It does look really nice. It's a nice looking building. Those are nice looking buildings. I did a little math. It looked like each one had 5. I'm not the engineer, but it did look like each one had 4 parking plus a guest parking, so that's 5 each. Typically, commercial's a little bit more water than a residential. So if you had 6, you're looking at 30 folks using bathrooms. And, depending on what business went in there, there is some concern that maybe that could overwhelm, but I'm not the engineer doing that. Plenty of engineers in the family, but I'm not the engineer doing that particular calculation. I think our bigger concern in looking at that is anything could go in there, really, after it's sold. And so it's one thing if it's that flex thing and there's a hair salon and there's a pet shop, but as we drove by the one yesterday, there's explosives, and there's an explosive side in the one at Van. And we don't really want explosives by our farm in the building there. And so if there was some limitations, if there's some limitations that happen, it comes back to planning and zoning, and they have to sign off on stuff, and if we could be called to say, hey, would be good with that too, that would be great. But if it's really an opening up to anything, that could be a problem. If it ended up being automotive, anything that they could spill outside. I know that I watched the thing with the tire show, with the tire, in consideration of the tire shop recently, and anything that could be oil changes or chemicals or anything that could be on the ground. I've been in Texas storms before. I know which parts of our land flood when we have low-lying ground. And so if we get runoff and there's a nice North Texas storm and we've got this much water on the ground, it's going into us. Like, it's going into our field and it's going into our water table. And so that's a definite concern. I think a C1, it's not so big, it's self-confined. A C2 is, if we had in front of us, like, the developer who said, this is what we want to put in. We're only telling people they can put in these 6 kind of shops, and you can be like, oh yeah, that's fine. I'd like a coffee shop. I like to get my hair done. Friends have a dog. Like, that would give us a little bit more constraint and a little more confidence that what would be going in wouldn't impact what we're currently trying to do. And I think the last, noise pollution could be a problem. I think the last thing for us is, we don't intend to develop, but I know that, in talking to Mr. Renfro, there could be a point where farmers don't have enough acreage. This is happening a little bit in the town in Idaho that I grew up in, where there's not enough contiguous acreage in a close enough spot that a farmer can get to it within a reasonable amount of time, and so you don't have a farmer that can take it anymore. So we've got through Scott Renfro's term, but at some point it could be harder for us to find someone who farms it without us moving back and trying to farm it. And anybody who's farming knows you can't do it. You can't survive on subsistence farming anymore like our grandparents could. And so if we get to the point at some point in the future, again, we're not looking to sell, but if we get to the point where we couldn't have it farmed anymore, where we couldn't find somebody who could take that on, either they couldn't get their tractors down 5, I know it's already beginning to be a problem, maybe Old Patterson's bigger and they can't get their tractors on that anymore. Now we're in a situation where we might not be able to continue in the current use and the use we've done for the last 70 years, in 10, 15, 20 years from now. That could be a real issue. And so I know we're trying to get a sale so that land, this side land, doesn't sit for 3 years, and I get it. Like, that's being taxed at a high rate. I saw the same tax records you were looking at. That's kind of brutal tax level to where for a house, for something you can't do anything with, maybe. So we're not trying to keep you and your seller from having something, but we do have some pretty major concerns. And if part of the thing is that across from that 7-acre plot is a concrete factory that makes it that the 7-acre plot can't do anything because of the concrete factory. But what happens when we extend that limitation to the 7 acres, and that 7 acres touches our 60? And so part of our concern is in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, what does that 7 acres do? Because the concrete factory, I don't know when it was put in, but it wasn't last year. And so what does that do for our 60 acres? So if that's noisy, if that's polluting, someone wanted to put in a really nice housing development. I mean, we've driven around, there's some gorgeous things going in. That would be nice for Howe at some point, maybe. I live in an area where, you know, where they do lots of, I know you said you didn't want to, like a downtown to compete with Van Alstyne. Van Alstyne's done some really cute stuff with theirs, but I live in an area where right now I live in Danville, California, and the next city over is San Ramon, and San Ramon was all farming until 20, 30 years ago. And so they recently created a beautiful central shopping area because they didn't have a downtown before. And so they created a beautiful downtown. It's got playgrounds in the middle, so the kids have a place to play. There's a parking garage that's separate. And so I'm not telling you what needs to be in Howe, but I have seen areas that are in a similar structure with that huge tech money that comes in and kind of overwhelms an area. And from my perspective, I'd rather hold out for something really good if we ever develop that than have that concrete factory kind of set what happens there across the street and then determines the whole, everything that's touching it. And everything that's touching it down that way that isn't houses is ours. So at this point, I'd like you to consider that. Like a C1 would be fine. If C2 came back with some really defined parameters or a development or something specific and not a, we're going to do a thing to sell it and then someone else will come in and see what happens, that's a little scary from us. And I know you talked about profit, and although we aren't intending to profit from it, I do, as a trustee, I do have to take into consideration if we ever did develop it. We don't make any money off it right now. We haven't for years. But if we ever did do that, I have to take into consideration the people, the family members and the next generations who might not have to live paycheck to paycheck, and that consideration too. So anyway, I really appreciate you inviting us out, and you taking the time to send me a certified mail. I was a little scared when it came. I was like, oh no. Yeah. If you have any questions.
Questions?
Yes, sir.
What crops are currently being planted on that property?
You know what, I sent a message to Scott when I got the message and said, what would you like me to know? I don't know what he has in right now. We usually do a wheat-corn rotation. I think it might have something in there. I don't know.
And secondly, you mentioned farm equipment being implemented up and down that road. Do you have plans to improve those roads on Old Patterson to accommodate your equipment?
Our equipment's doing fine with it. We aren't having a trouble with our equipment. It's that if there's additional equipment. The thing we have trouble with is kids peeling out, going real fast at it, and end up sticking their truck in our road, in our crop. We don't have any issues with our stuff getting in there, but if there was an increase in traffic and they couldn't access it, that could be a problem.
Do y'all maintain part of that road because of your equipment?
I believe the county maintains it. I don't think we are. So on the side piece is part of the side piece. So in between the crop and there's, I don't know, 10 foot of growth. And so that gets mowed, I think, 2 or 3 times a year as part of our lease. Scott Renfro takes care of that. We don't own the road. We don't own, as you see in the map, like I don't know if you can tell on the map or not, but the road doesn't belong to us. The road is a county road that nonetheless, and then my grandparents bought parcels on either side to put together something. So no, we don't have the legal responsibility to maintain that road, but we do try not to. We don't, have a lot of traffic outside of family and friends and whoever comes to Highway 6. Yeah.
Anything else? No? All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Anyone else for public comment?
Can I readdress?
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of talking to her on the phone for, I don't know what, half an hour?
Thank you, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, it just really brought to light a human, because I sell a lot of farmland. I actually got a deal closing, next week? Next week, right here in Howe, 46 acres. So I deal with farmers, I deal with developers, and it was just really encouraging to put a human to the situation. I applaud the empathy. I mean, just the history. I'm a history buff. I love it, and it really warmed my heart. But I also I'm also as pragmatic as the day is long. So if I may, I would like to address just a few of the points that you mentioned. I think you mentioned that the commercial usage of water would be more so than a residential. No possible way unless it was a water-driven major business. And with it being currently SF2, we would be developing it if the math made sense. And then in that circumstance, there would not be any discussion, which means we would be bringing in a lot of people and a lot of water runoff. But it is only the sewer situation that is preventing that scenario from happening. So let's remember that that's not what anybody wants. And it's certainly not what the seller wants, and it's certainly not what you want. And then if that was the case, the cars, the water, the noise, all of that would be a moot point, because all of it would be way more than what a commercial 2 environment would be looking for. In a commercial 2, in any commercial, well, primarily commercial, if we're looking at a business park, we're looking at toilets and hand washing. We're not looking at showers. We're not looking at bathing our kids. We're not looking at massive laundry facilities. Like this weekend, I did 6 loads. So that's 6 loads times however many houses. That's not going to get done. So from a water standpoint, we're talking about toilets and hand washing, maybe some coffee pots. From a road standpoint, I parked one day when I had nothing else better to do, but I watched the traffic flow come from Old Highway 6, and did they come and go down Duke, or did they go that way? And the majority of them came across to Duke. So all of those homeowners that are trying to get out of their home, they're taking Duke. Some of the kids, they might like Old Patterson Road. Me and myself, I've never even been on Old Patterson, and I've lived here 7 years. I didn't even know where it was. I had to look at. So I take that back. I've been on it once now because I didn't know where it was. But from a road standpoint, from a developer standpoint, if we're going to be if we're going to be required to improve upon the road, they're going to improve Duke, which is going to drastically improve the traffic flow. People will be more apt to take that route. They won't be more apt to take your route, except for the crazy teenagers who love to go, doing whatever they do. And then at the end of the day, you can't control them, And at the end of the day, maybe you should be my buyer. I'd love that. And all of this discussion is hypothetical, because there is not a buyer at this moment. My seller is just asking that you guys come up with a solution based on prior council's behavior, prior realtors' behavior, who knows, prior buyers and sellers' behavior. We did get stuck with a concrete plant across the street from it. Come up with a solution that benefits the town, benefits the land, benefits the sellers, preserves the farmers. We can do tree ordinances. We can do deed restrictions. We can mandate that X amount of feet inside of that tree line is preserved. People do it all the time. Let's just get creative. But the C2 is the most logical classification for that property. Otherwise, C1, goodness gracious, is there a height restriction on C1? Do we want an office building? I mean, do we want an office building? Do we want a parking garage? What do we want? We just want onesie-twosies. So I just think we have a lot more options, and we're speculating, and yes, I definitely know that we could sell this and then somebody change their mind and sell it again, but you can change your mind also. Something catastrophic can happen to your family, and boom, your property is now for sale, and your property is now being developed, because it happens every day, all day. It's capitalism, it's land, it's buy and sell, and that's really what makes the world go around, you know, and we're seeing it here in Howe. We're just not seeing anything commercial, and that's a deficit. It's a detriment to our community. So thank you for letting me readdress. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? One more thing, yes. Yeah, yeah, into the mic, yeah.
The last thing is, we want to work with the community. So if there's a way we can work together to come up with a solution that works with everybody, we know we're not sitting up there voting yay or nay. We got it. But if we can work with the community, and we also figured, if nothing else, we would come and you'd know who we are. So when things happen and you need to talk to us, I can leave you my phone number. You can give me a call if there's something we need to know. I'd rather you call me than look into California and what are they? You know, it's a strange investor, or whatever. Like, give me a call. Let's work together. Let's figure things out. That's everything. Until quite recently, with a handshake over the fence. That's how most things were done on the farm until quite recently. We have little contracts, but anyway, that's what I want to say, for whatever it's worth. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we'll close public comment. Now let's put it to a vote. Is there a motion? One way or the other?
Can I ask a quick question? How many sewer and water taps are on that property? Is it just the one with that home?
It is that one sewer tap that's available. So at this point, they'd only be able to use that one. And our engineer would have to, give approval on how much that will actually intake, whether that's 4 or 5 units, whether that's 2 units, depending on the use. But we will make that one tap available for the development, if so approved.
Thank you.
Have a motion? Okay.
I like the idea of rezoning it. However, I have been by that same development out on 121, and it is extremely crowded. I don't like it, and especially on that curve. I'm not opposed to commercial, but I'm not gonna leave the motion.
And it's hypothetical who the buyer is.
Right, because there's no plans, so I'm curious, I guess, what the rush is.
Nolan, can you give us an idea of the parking requirements per square footage? I know it's in our ordinance. I don't know if you have that memorized or not, but.
Ballpark. Yeah, so in the zoning ordinance, the parking requirement does vary based on commercial use. For planning purposes, high level, I'd probably assign 200 to 300 square foot, or one stall, parking stall per 200 to 300 square foot of commercial space, depending on what it is. If it is warehouses, that gets a little closer to 1,000, one per 1,000 square feet, so less parking.
So depending on use, got it.
Yep, and this is kind of the zoning regarding, while I'm up here, regarding the sewer capacity availability. That is going to be based on the end user as they come forward for site plan and plating. We will evaluate that.
Okay, thank you. You want to make a motion? Either way.
I'll make a motion to accept it to C2.
We have a second? I'll second it. Okay. You need me to? Okay. All in favor then? All right. Any opposed? None opposed? Okay. All right, that's the last item. We'll close the planning and zoning meeting at 6:59 PM. Okay, that's fine.
He said to leave it on because they're almost here. All right.
Monty,
Did you know?
Monty. Monty.
I know.
I've got a red mic. A red mic.
Switching with Sarah.
I just switched.
There he is. No, that's Energizer.
They don't make batteries like they used to, man.
Old radio set battery.
Lasts forever.
Who's the one with the cat?
Yes.
What's the name of that?
What radio vac is it?
Yeah.
Radio vac.
Thank you. The City Council will now resume. The time is 7:02 PM. Action item number 3, discuss, consider, and act upon the update of the City of Howe personnel policy and procedures. Does the council wish to discuss this item? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Sean makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Can we get a brief explanation of
Oh,
what
yes, sir.
changed, of what we're...
I mean, I'm willing for y'all to breeze right through this. So a few changes. This hasn't been updated in several years, so we just made a few small changes. We did make one big one that came up on Friday. We had a department head meeting, and all of the department heads were in favor of moving to PTO and removing sick time as an option. So that would bank 144 hours of PTO and remove the sick time. Also, probation period is now established at 6 months where it was 3. The police department, Chief Sullivan has instituted a 12-month period, so it is optional for the department head to carry that over another 6 months, so that gives him the latitude to do so. One change was budgeted part-time employees from 40 hours to 30 hours. This eliminates the possibility of providing benefits for part-time employees. The pay schedule, small clerical error. This was updated from Thursday to Monday because that's what we've been doing for quite a while, at least 10 years. Bilingual option was added for administrative, set at $50 a month. On-call pay will be now be paid at regular overtime if responding to an on-call emergency. Holiday on-call will be paid at double the regular pay. Not much change there. Let's see. We cleaned up the holiday schedule. We have 11 holidays. That really kind of sums up. There wasn't a whole lot of changes, but it did need to be cleaned up. So if anybody has any other questions, I'd be happy to field them.
And we are going to make sure that each employee receives a new policy manual,
And we'll have to sign it.
and they have a beneficiary, they'll sign for that.
Yeah, currently, we don't have on file beneficiaries for all employees, and we need one, just in case there's, God forbid, something happens, we need to know, where to send. We don't want any squabbles at City Hall
Right.
over that.
And if approved tonight, the policy manual will say, on the front, it'll say when it was approved.
If so approved, it would have today's date on it, and then it'd be effective January 1st.
Yes.
I'll second the motion.
Sean, still.
Still approve.
All right. Sean is making a motion to approve, and Michael makes a second. All in favor? Everyone? Any opposed or abstaining? None are opposing or abstaining, so motion passes. Item number 4, discuss, consider, and act upon appointment of Christine Labertu as a reserve officer for the Howe Police Department. Chief?
Thank you. So, as I continue to build the program and build our department going forth, I look for talent and people who bring unique things to our team, being a small community. Ms. Labertu has an expertise dealing with sex crimes, sex trafficking, family violence, and things of that nature. She currently works for a nonprofit organization that's sponsored by the governor's office through a position of grant. She brings almost 15 years' experience. My goal is to utilize that experience, 1, to train our personnel, 2, to allow us to get adjustments where we need from our perspective of family violence. When I took over here, we do not even have a family violence packet, which is required by law. And lastly, she's willing to dedicate her time, 8 hours a month, to help us get our records room in somewhat of an organized standard, which is a mess, put it mildly. So therefore, I would ask that y'all would approve for her to be a reserve. She would dedicate 8 hours a month to our city free of charge. Any questions?
Council, anybody have any questions for Chief Sullivan? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Ricky makes a motion to approve, and Sean makes a motion, or second. All in favor? Everyone? Any opposed? None are opposed. Any abstaining? None are abstaining. Motion passes. Item number 5, discuss, consider, and act upon notice of candidate filing December 16, 2024, first day to file. Does the council wish to discuss this item?
So we just have to approve that December 16th is okay?
That is correct. Is that right, Monty? Yes, sir.
Today's the 17th, so we didn't have anybody file yesterday? I'll make a motion that we accept it or
Okay, we approve.
approve.
Michael makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Billy makes a second. All in favor? Everyone, anybody opposing or abstaining? None are opposing or abstaining. Moving on to ordinance number 829, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Howe, Texas, amending Howe's zoning ordinance as amended to rezone tract of land consisting of a total of 7.187 acres of land located in the J.A. Haining Survey, abstract number 0544, Grayson County, Texas, in the City of Howe, Grayson County, Texas, and W.A. Park Survey, abstract number 925, consisting of property ID numbers 152617, 152618, 152654, and 152655, heretofore zoned SF2, providing that the tract is hereby rezoned as C2 describing the tract to be rezoned, providing a penalty clause, saving and repealing clause, severability clause, and an effective date, and providing for the publication of the caption hereof. We will now have a public hearing for the request zone change in ordinance number 829. This is the same ordinance that the P&Z just had for discussion. Is there anyone from the public? We'll now open that up to the public. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to discuss this item? All right, so we will now end that public hearing and return to our regular session. Number 6, discuss, consider, and act upon the ordinance number 829. Does the council wish to discuss this item? And if not, do we have a motion to approve?
Mayor, I would just note for the record that it comes with a recommendation from PNC.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve, P&Z approved it. I believe we all had a chance to hear both sides. So I'm sticking with the motion to approve.
Okay, Michael makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Go ahead. I'll second.
Ricky makes a second. All in favor? Everyone, any opposed or abstaining? None are opposed or abstaining, so motion passes. Ordinance number 830. An ordinance of the City of Howe, Texas, amending the Howe City Code of Ordinances by repealing Section 28 curfew hours for minors and repealing ordinance number 527 entitled Curfew for Minors in its entirety. Public hearing for ordinance number 830. We will now open this, have a public hearing for ordinance number 830, allowing members of the public to speak if they should choose to do so. Do we have anyone from the public that wants to speak? Since we do not, we will now end that public hearing and return to regular session. Item number 7, discuss, consider, and act upon ordinance number 830, removing curfew for minors due to execution of House Bill 1819.
Mayor, Council, I was just going to briefly say that this is due to House Bill 1819 being signed. All the cities and communities in the state of Texas are having to repeal those ordinances, so this is kind of standard and routine.
I make a motion that we appeal, or that we repeal it and
All right, so,
according to the House bill.
all right, Michael makes a motion to remove the curfew for minors due to the execution of the House Bill 1819.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I heard Billy. Billy makes a second. All in favor? Everyone? Anyone opposed or abstaining? None are opposed or abstaining. Motion passes. Ordinance number 831. An ordinance repealing the Code of Ordinances of the City of Howe, Texas, to amend Chapter 7, Section 3, Police Reserve Force, subsection B. We will now have a public hearing for ordinance number 831, allowing members of the public to speak should they choose to do so. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak for ordinance number 831? Since we do not have anyone, we will now end public hearing and return to our regular session. Number 8, discuss, consider, and act upon ordinance number 831. Monty?
Mayor, Council, this is just a repeal of that ordinance number 501 established back in 1999. It requires the City Council to approve all reserve officers. We have given Chief Sullivan, or you have given the Chief Sullivan the power to hire his own staff. This ordinance kind of goes against that and requiring council to approve reserves. That seems to fly in the face of his duties and responsibilities. And I think him being able to make the decision of hiring reserve officers unpaid, when we're giving him the authority to hire paid officers, it just seems that those two need to be congruent.
Does the council wish to discuss this any further?
Yes. Was there any found reason for it? I mean, I can,
Initially, in 1999, is that what you're asking?
well, yeah,
You know, Mayor Ray Bledsoe signed the ordinance, so I'm not quite sure. I could probably look back in some old editions, and I bet the Write-Outs wrote up a really good article about it, but I didn't have time to research that.
I mean, I make a motion that we repeal it. It's giving him the authority to hire everybody else.
Okay.
I second.
All right, Michael makes a motion to repeal the ordinance, and Billy makes a second. All in favor?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
the ordinance is doing the repealing, but you need to approve ordinance 831
Okay.
because it's the ordinance that does the repealing.
Gotcha.
So we're making a motion to approve ordinance 831.
I make the motion to approve ordinance 831.
I still second that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Michael makes a motion to approve ordinance 831. Billy makes a second to approve. All in favor? Everyone, any opposed or abstaining? None. Motion passes. Departmental reports, number 9. We'll start with our Howe Police Department. Chief Sullivan.
Good evening, thank you. So over the last 60 days, we have transitioned our department to begin the process of bringing on new technology. We have brought on new tasers that'll be here in spring, new radios, new body cams. We're working in the process to enhance our fleet. And so all this brings us to be a 21st century, and it also enables us to recruit good personnel. One of the challenges that we run into is that, you've heard me say before, is that we're behind as far as the number of staffing personnel. It's a very competitive market, and recruiting young people isn't solely about pay. So this technology that we continue brings us to be a modern police department. It makes our officers safer and gives us an opportunity to recruit for new personnel, as we did with Officer Sutherland. Officer Sutherland is a Howe graduate. He graduated number 3 in his class, made the highest grade on the state exam, and he has started week 2 of his field training program. So welcome aboard, and glad to have you. So this is Officer Caden Sutherland. Thank you. One of the challenges that we ran into is how the personnel were trained from past to present to new leadership. Technology has enhanced our ability to train our personnel and provide a better service of officer. We are in the process of bringing on Leaders. Leaders is an online program monitored through the Texas Municipal Police Association that allows our officers to make better cases for DWIs. The same organization is also moving forward with what they call SafeVic, which is sexual assault, family violence. In January, my team will embark on a training with Cook County Sheriff's Office so that we can move forward in using that program so that we can hold offenders accountable who choose to commit sexual assaults and family violence in our community. This will allow us to provide better cases and hold offenders accountable. We also responded to 128 calls for service this month. One of the things that I'm starting to see as a trend is that the department historically has been reactionary versus proactive. My leadership style is we will become a proactive and a community-engaged program in which we have started to begin. On Saturday, December the 7th, the Howe Police Department, along with other agencies from the Grayson County community, participated in a Shop with a Cop, which allowed us to help people who are less fortunate in our youth have a Christmas. On December the 14th, we also participated in the Christmas parade. On January the 16th at 6:30 p.m. right here, we will hold our first town hall meeting. My goal of that town hall meeting is to give our community an opportunity to meet our police officers, our police department, and hear some of the plans that I have for our future, such as community a Citizens Police Academy, having town hall meetings for our business community as well as our residents from a crime prevention program. I'm also working with trying to get the Neighborhood Watch program established here so that businesses and residents in our community can get to know each other to make our community safer. Staffing was a little bit of a challenge over the last 30 days. We had 2 internal investigations that resulted in resignations, one for a violation of departmental policy, one for a violation of law. Both chose to resign and move on to different endeavors. This is the caliber of professionalism that we will become to expect from the Howe Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does council wish to ask Chief any questions or any comments?
I did. One note I will make note of is we issued 53 citations this past month, which surpasses all of last year for citations.
Thank you, sir.
There was no quota.
We'll now move on to the Howe Fire Department. Chief Monet.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Howe Fire Rescue had 74 calls for service in the month of November. These being mutual aid calls, EMS calls, fire calls, and miscellaneous calls and false alarms. Howe Fire Rescue is a total of 40 hours of training performed in the month of November. We've been called out for mutual aid to multiple agencies with our new EMS. Has been wonderful. We've been helping our neighboring cities, Van Alstyne and Sherman, tremendously, and also helping White-Wright and Tom Bean. Howe Fire Rescue has had many certification classes going on right now, trying to advance our department into the future and the way we want our department to be ran. We've been very busy with calls this past month, and fire season is picking up due to colder weather, chimneys, and now that the burn ban's off, illegal burns and burning. Howe Fire Rescue also received another $3,000 recruitment grant, which is a 100% zero cost sharing grant that we are going to be using for more recruitment ideas and items. EMS has been running smoothly with the crews we have, and I can't say thank you enough for everything you guys have done to help with this furthering into the future. Any questions?
Thank you.
Chief, have we heard from Grayson County OEM about how they think we're doing as far as maybe next year, us getting a slice of that?
As far we had been in the past, and then Samantha Allison is no longer with the Grayson County OEM, so the communication has not halted. It's just kind of slowed down with Sarah Summers being so busy and a lot of stuff on her plate. So I have not heard anything negative with the way we're running.
How do you feel that we're doing, and have we progressed to where you expected us to be?
I think we've leaps and bounds surpassed where I thought we would be in the first, this is what, 8 months? Yeah. I mean, we're almost 500 calls since April, so we're leaps and bounds into the future from where I can see us growing continually.
Well, I think it goes to you as well, Chief. We appreciate you steamrolling that and getting that going. It's been a long time.
I appreciate that. It was a long time coming, but I'm glad it's here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's nice that when they are out and about, they are extremely professional. They're
Good.
polite, they're courteous.
Excellent.
You have set a very good example.
Well, I appreciate that.
Any other council members have any questions or comments? Thank you,
All right.
Chief.
Thank you.
Chief Sullivan, Chief Monet, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate all of our departments. We've got a great team.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Public Works, Monty, are you giving the Public Works?
Can we let Michelle go over real quick? Hers?
Yes.
She's got a report to give.
Oh, absolutely.
I may not have listed it on the sheet, but
Yes.
just a reminder.
Mayor, Council, we've had several updates to our systems. We've been working closely with New and Blue, which is the company that the police department has chosen for their ticket writers, and that obviously incorporates with the court side. So our court clerk and myself have been working closely with the PD as well as with New and Blue to see what we can do to implement a better, more efficient, seamless transition from the citations that are received from PD into our system. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of attention given to these systems, so it is going to be a lot of heavy lifting in the beginning, but we're so looking forward to there going to be a time where everything will be seamless between PD and City Hall. We have begun our FundView transition. FundView is going to be the new source, central hub for all of our departments, including all of them, PD, ourselves, utilities, and Public Works, so we'll all be streamlined on one system, and that definitely will reduce cost. We have also completed electronic recycling, and we've discarded old technology. The storage facility is meant for documentation that we are required to maintain. Unfortunately, it was not kept. So any old technology or thing that was irrelevant, we've discarded, and we did it safely, eliminating all data from it and doing it in a productive manner. We've also uncovered several errors with regards to citation codes that are not matching between the system of PD and City Hall. This is absolutely imperative that it be corrected, because if the citizen, when they get the citation, the information is not correct, then there's no way for us to efficiently collect any of the revenues. So we are working with PD on that as well. On the clerk side, Amy, who is our court clerk and our permit clerk, is now taking care of the court by herself. I have mirrored her and I've shadowed her for about 5 months now. She's now only asking for assistance when needed. She completed her training in Austin for municipal court clerk, so she should be good. But if there's anything that doesn't have experience with, I help her with any issues that she has. The audit has been a central focus for my department this past month, and unfortunately it continues. The issues that we're having is that previous city secretaries or administration did not properly balance the balance sheets at the month end. This unfortunately has created approximately about a $35,000 difference between the balances that we have in the bank and the balances that we have on paper. The previous city secretary, Joy Stevens, and I have been working tirelessly. We started with October of the fiscal year of 21 into 22, and now unfortunately we're in May, going back all the way back to May. What will need to happen is we'll have to find where that error is and then correct every balance sheet moving forward so we can have an accurate accounting. Unfortunately, it's not a very easy or quick process. It is time consuming, but we're confident that between her and I, we can find that discrepancy and get our balancing correct from that fiscal year and then start the next fiscal year audit. The City Hall staff also helped coordinate the efforts to collect toys for the toy drive. The community has responded positively to this toy drive, and it was something that our clerks really enjoyed.
And it would not have been possible without y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions? And thank you,
We
Council.
appreciate you, Michelle, and your department.
Thank you.
Mayor, council, I'll discuss public works and court and development and utility billing. First of all, I want to say thank you to our department heads. They're just absolutely remarkable and outstanding. And, you know, to have, I told this story in the Christmas party a year and a half ago, my first day over there at City Hall. I pulled everybody into the room to kind of give them an expectations of what changes might be taking place in the future, and kind of, you know, just letting them know that it's going to be, you know, a calm atmosphere, but there are higher expectations for the city of Howe. At the Christmas party, I asked everybody in here to raise their hands who were at that meeting, and we had two members that are still on staff from a year and a half ago. Robert Monet is one of those, our fire chief, and Becky Roberts, our utility clerk. Those two, as I mentioned during the party, they're our anchors. Really proud of them, and Chief Monet has done an absolute remarkable job with the EMS, and we're starting to see checks come in quite regularly now from the EMS side, so that's good. And as far as personnel wise, I never hear from the fire department or EMS. Robert runs a pretty tight ship, and I'm real proud of those guys and girls, real proud of them. So let's get into the public works side. First, we'll start kind of off the cuff with the water situation we had, was it last week, where we caught ourselves on Channel 10 News because we were just about to run out of water. The GTUA, who we contract water from, failed to fill up our reserve tank, which brought our water down faster than normally would. We knew they were going to do a conversion or some repairs on their line. We knew the water was going to be down. Had they been able to fill that tank, none of the citizens would have even known anything about it because we would have had enough to keep going. But we got real scared. We got down to .001 inches in our tank before water started coming from Lake Lavon. But we had a discussion with GTUA, not only about that, but also with another issue of flushing into a pasture over there on Old Patterson Road. They've been really eroding the land with all the flushing they're doing. And so we had a conversation with them today. They're going to keep the capacity in that tank at a lower level, which will reduce the amount of flushing that's going to be needed. It'll keep more of the water circulating instead of water sitting in that tank for a longer period of time. So we're hoping that'll solve the problem. Eventually, you know, we're going to get to a situation where we're going to need bigger tanks, and I know that's coming as the developments we'll talk about later. Public Works carried out 60 service orders. 4 meters were set, 2 meter leaks repaired, pothole patching that used 3 yards of cold mix, 5 water main leaks were repaired, 20 disconnections for move-outs, 12 hours of mowing and trimming trees, 4 sewer backups, and they also helped decorate downtown and Summit Gardens. They had 102 hours on wells, reports, and water quality adjustments and maintenance, 2 hours with electrician at the well, an hour with RLC at well 2, 1 hour pulled booster pump at well 3 to send off a rebuild with pump company, 4 hours to assist with leaks, 6 hours on wastewater issues, 3 hours working on the SCADA with RLC, 11 hours of flushing the mains, 18 hours with GTUA during the water shutdown, 4 hours meeting with the water meter vendor to explore new options for a better metering system, 2 hours located valves near Dollar General, which you would think would be easy since we have old pictures, but we cannot locate that valve over there. They began excavation investigation on the water line that they plan to replace new PVC and auto flusher on Elm Street. The current line is old iron pipe that is very corroded and causing water quality problems. As soon as that line is complete, they plan to on moving north to Howe Street to tackle that same type of issue. They'd like to investigate getting grants on some type of assistance with funding to start really attacking some of those old water lines. And so we're going to have a meeting with a grant writer coming up very soon. As I mentioned, we met with GTUA, spoke with the chloramine contractor on a conversion, and they're completely ready to proceed with the startup. We need to issue public notice a certain number of days before we do make that switch over on that conversion, and we'll be doing that pretty shortly. Also, 102 hours of wells, reports, and water quality adjustments and maintenance, 2 hours with electrician at well 2. And, you know, they spend a lot of, I don't want to have to go into detail on all of these. I know I sent them to you, but if anybody has any questions, they spend a lot of hours and they're documenting their time very well. And I can't talk high enough about Justin and Jerry and the leadership that they have over there. And we've instituted a great public works situation. As far as my report, we have active projects with Noble Ridge, which is 171 homes. Connections Park is still progressing. Noble Ridge 1B is 177 homes. Ponderosa, you might see what's going on at the north end. They finally started turning dirt. That's an NRP group for about 300 doors on a multifamily unit. You might also notice the huge sewer expansion going north along in front of Howe High School and all of that. That's a big sewer line that's being expanded to that NRP group apartment complex. And with that mound of dirt that covers, you can't even see Howe High School. When people call, I just tell them we're planting 2 crepe myrtles up there. We also have Grace Meadows, 51 half-acre lots, Hilltop Ranch, 1,376 homes. That's at Highway 5 and Blythe Road and 75. Howe Meadows, we're talking with them. That's 762 homes. Talbot Estates is 65 half-acre lots. Saddleback, you did the zone change last month for 7 homes next to Connections Park. So there's a lot going on in the development world. We're looking at 3,628 new residential units coming on board in the near future, and that's part of this package. What that represents is a population. If you add our current population into what's projected in these developments, we're looking at a population of about 15,477 over the next few years, and that's quite a dramatic uptick from where we are. Chief Sullivan mentioned new officer Caden Sutherland. We're proud to have a hometown boy. I'm glad he's a Howe Bulldog and he's with us. Leaks have been more manageable. You know about the BVRT situation that we're going to meet over the next few weeks about that. As I understand it, one of our developers is talking with them also, and could be a situation where we have two if we so move in that direction. I'll skip the water because I talked about that. I'll skip the audit because Michelle did a great job with that. And by the way, I didn't brag on Michelle, but she's awesome too. Sales tax figures for this current month was $55,773, of which $13,943 is for the Howe Community Facilities Development Corporation. This represents a 21.45 increase from December of 2023. We're supposed to meet in January to kind of finalize our strategic plan, and I'm looking forward to that. Utility billing. So in December, current bill, we billed out $222,279. In November, we billed out $222,111. So we're running pretty consistent with our utility billing. And as Chief Sullivan mentioned, the citations out past last year's total number, which means the court total numbers are up as well. Right now we're looking at 4,163 receipts on court. Any questions? Thank you all.
Thank you, Monty. We appreciate you as well. We really do have a great team. Moving on to executive session, the City Council will convene in closed session pursuant to the provisions of the Open Meeting Act, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, executive session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter, Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property. Texas Government Code Section 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. Texas Government Code Section 551.074, personnel matters. Discussion items are real estate development matters and development procedures, waste treatment plant and procedures. The council will now go into executive session, and the time is 7:37 p.m.
Good to go. Everybody hit your mic, please.
Oh, yep, will do. We can stand, can't we?
You're not centuries, I mean, like.
No. Oh, we'll stand. Oh, it was so low. Oh, my goodness.
The council will now reconvene into open session, and the time is 9:38 p.m. If there's no further action if there's no further business to come before this council, this meeting stands adjourned at 9:38 p.m. Thank you and have a good night.